readers, it's cozy mystery author Meg Muldoon here, and I want to welcome you to episode 3 of my cozy happy hour show. I guess I'm going to call it a show now. So, thank you so much for being here for episode 3, and I hope this video finds you and yours healthy and well and safe, and yeah, just thank you for being here. So, today I thought it would be fun to kind of base this whole episode around characters and the importance of characters, especially in Christmas River, in the Christmas River series. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about them a little bit, and I kind of put together. I thought this would be fun, just because Christmas River is kind of it's a fictional town, but to me it's very much grounded in reality. I based the town on a little town in Central Oregon called Sisters, and it's always, I don't know, it's always been very vivid to me, and all the characters have always been so real, especially, as I've gone throughout the series, and I feel like I've gotten to know them better. So I thought, of course, everything that's going on right now with the pandemic and social distancing, and I was just thinking, what would these characters be doing during this time in this world of Christmas River if, the pandemic affected Christmas River? So I thought it might be kind of, I hope you guys get a kick out of it and it makes you feel like, you get to see a snapshot into their world, even though it's not a story or a book. It's kind of bringing those characters a little bit to you. And I hope you enjoy it. And I really had the idea for this particular topic just because in my Facebook group, I had gotten a question from my lovely friend Tina Harris, who I've known forever. And she had asked the question, she said, "I'm very curious how you brew up the personalities of your characters in Christmas River because they really come to life." So that was a really nice question, Tina. Thank you. And so, yeah, it's an amazing thing because I started out the series with this idea that I kind of, had these characters a little bit. Like Cinnamon came through really strongly for me from the get-go. And the rest of it kind of came from nothing basically, and these other characters appeared. And at the time, after I had written book 1, I thought I had a pretty good grasp on who everyone was and who appeared in Murder in Christmas River. But now that I've written almost 14 books in the series, I really feel like back then, I didn't know anything, and that it's been such an amazing journey here of just learning or getting to know these characters. Like I feel like I've gotten to know them with you guys, at the same pace as you guys, as well. It's like, when I sit down what I've learned is that like they really come to life on their own. When I sit down at the computer, a lot of times, and I just have the blank page in front of me, there's, a lot of times I don't come to it with any idea about what the characters are going to do or say or what I want to happen. It's like a lot of times I just feel like I have very little to do with any of it. They just really come through. I don't know where they come from, and I don't, I see elements in them sometimes of people that I've known, or maybe like characters from movies or TV shows, or sometimes books that have sort of influenced me or that I admire. But, I think in the end they all become kind of their own person almost, and it's very strange and uncanny how that happens. And now that I'm so many books into the series, I feel like I know them so well, and it's like they're almost real to me. And yeah, like I said, I really feel like I have so little to do with that, like bringing to life. Like if I find that if I do the work, they will appear, kind of like that. So it's a very special thing to be a writer and just to see that happen before your eyes, because it's like sometimes if I have to reread one of my previous books for different reasons, I've had to do that, but I'll be like, gosh, I don't like, this doesn't even sound like me. It's very strange. They just come through. So that's the answer to that question. Thank you so much, Tina, for asking it. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy this next segment here. It's just kind of what these characters from Christmas River would be doing during this crazy time that we're in, of social distancing and being, in quarantine and that kind of thing. So it's pretty lighthearted. So I think you're going to enjoy it. So I've made these little character name cards, and I think I had warned you in the last episode that my handwriting is really terrible. So I hope this doesn't shock you. But anyway, so I made these cards so that we can talk about each character. So the first character, of course, is Cinnamon. And Cinnamon Peters, of course, is our main character in the Christmas River series. And she owns a pie shop and she's a pie baker extraordinaire. And so I think during this time, it would be a little, I think things are, there's good, there's bad, obviously. And I think she's been working to find the silver linings and the good things. So probably the bad thing is just that because they're in Oregon and Oregon has the stay-at-home order right now. So I think restaurants have had to really adjust to that and take out only. So I think she would be, her pie shop is has been shut down, but I think she's adjusted a little bit. I think she's putting in not many hours there, but I think she's created pies that are like take and bake pies. So I think she's being creative there for people who absolutely, need takeout. And I think she's also making these pies because I think Cinnamon is very community minded, and I think she loves the community of Christmas River, and she wants to help people as much as she can. So when she's not staying at home and trying to do that, I think she's making these pies, and I think she's probably delivering them to shelters in the area and probably working with the food bank. I could really see her doing that, and just putting her skills to use there and trying to help as many people as she can. And I think she's also using this time, to when she's staying at home. I think she's kind of started a new venture here because she has all this extra time on her hands. So I think she's doing something that she has always kind of secretly wanted to do for years and years, which is write a pie cookbook. So Cinnamon is working on that during this time, and I think she's finding that it's helping a lot to kind of throw herself into this big project, and it's exciting, and it's just who knows where it will take her. Her pies are she's gotten quite a reputation for her pies in the area, and I think she's kind of wanting to share her love of pie baking with others, and so I think that's what this cookbook is about. And I think she's having a great time writing it, and I think she's also, who else is benefiting from this extra time that Cinnamon is spending at home, are her dogs, Huckleberry and Chadwick. I think they're just having an excellent time hanging out with their owner like all day. So I think they're the big winners here. And because usually Cinnamon she's kind of a workaholic, so to be able to spend all this time with her dogs is really nice for them and for her. So I think that's what Cinnamon's up to, and that brings us to the next character, which is Cinnamon's grandfather Warren, who, I think this is probably the one thing that's been pretty hard for Cinnamon during this time, is that she's had to kind of socially distance from her grandfather Warren, which is really hard because they're so close. And it actually brings me to another reader's question, which is from Pamela Caudill. I hope I'm saying your last name right, Pamela. Pamela's a lovely reader who's very kind, and she had asked me, how old is Warren? So that's a good question, because I know in the books I always have Cinnamon calling him old man, so it was kind of vague. So Warren is in his mid-80s, so he would definitely, fall into that category of kind of more vulnerable people during this time. So Warren is staying inside, and unfortunately Cinnamon is not getting to see him like she used to. However, I think they've been very creative in how they communicate now, and I don't think they're communicating any less, because I think, as Daniel would probably say, not even a pandemic can stop that old chatterbox. So, I hear Daniel, Cinnamon's husband, saying this really clearly, because he's always kind of making fun of Warren and how much Warren talks all the time, constantly talking. So it's kind of this funny banter that he always has with Cinnamon. So I really think it's true. I don't think Warren's talking any less, and I don't think he is. I think he's talking. I think they're probably talking all the time via Skype or FaceTime, and it's just they've had to adjust a little bit. But I think they're making the most of it and doing, I can kind of see them almost playing like there being a sliding glass door maybe between them, like in Warren's apartment above the brewery, and like Cinnamon, playing some sort of game like tic-tac-toe maybe with Warren, and I get the feeling they're talking just as much as they always did, and it's just a little different, just having to adjust a little bit. But what's most important to Cinnamon is that Warren is healthy and that he's staying inside and not putting himself in any unnecessary danger. So I think knowing that, I think she's okay with this new form of having to communicate with him. So yeah, but Warren is having a nice time, I think, because he has started this I think he's giving beer brewing classes online. And I think that he's developed quite a following of people on Instagram who just love him because he's such a character, and he's kind of this elderly brewer, which you don't see too often. And people are crazy about his classes, and I think I think he's being very, despite his brew pub being closed now, I think he's quite successful in these classes that he's giving, and I think it's sort of opened up a whole new. I think if you read book 12, you know that he's being interviewed in part of book 12 for this national beer show. So I kind of see him expanding on that a little bit during this time, and maybe new opportunities opening up for him. We don't know. So I think he's doing okay, and he's got his wife Eileen, who he runs the brewery with, and I think that is really nice. Like, it makes Cinnamon feel much better that he's not alone. Like, he's got Eileen there, and they're doing just fine. So that's Warren, and then our next character is Daniel, who is, of course, Cinnamon's husband, and he's the sheriff of Poley County. And I see him as his work and his job, not changing too much. Other than that, I think things are probably busier than maybe they have been. But I think that he's still out there and he's working. I think he's one of those essential people that needs to be working and kind of leading the community. And I think that it's difficult, but I feel like he's kind of, his character is so, I just feel like he would be up to the task for this, and almost like he's been born for this a little bit, like, because he's very community minded, and he just is all about helping people and justice and kind of things like that. So I find that during this time, I think he'd step up and he would rise to the challenge. So I think Cinnamon worries about him being out there, but I think there's this understanding that that's part of being sheriff. So I think that's what Daniel's doing, and I think when he comes home, I think Cinnamon's got some pie, some savory pies there waiting for him, and I think they're doing okay during this time. So that's Daniel, and so our next character is Kara, who of course is Cinnamon's best friend. And so Kara runs an ornament shop in downtown Christmas River, and so it's been kind of hard because the ornament shop has had to close. But I feel like Kara is such a business person, and she's a very smart businesswoman, and I think that she has been kind of gradually moving a lot of her business to an online format for a long time. So I think that this has kind of encouraged her to get that up and running, and to really put a lot of her effort into that. So I see that as kind of being what she's been focused on lately, and I think she's already had quite a following there. So I think it's just a matter of kind of adjusting a little bit her business, and she's also been using this extra time to focus on her romance books, which I think if you've read book 12, you know that she's got a whole other kind of side career as a romance novelist. So this has given her an opportunity to focus on that. And I think also this has given her a really good chance to spend a lot of time with her daughter Lila, because Kara is almost, she works almost as hard as Cinnamon does. She's always working. And so I think it's hard, especially because she's a mom. So, to have this time to spend with her daughter Lila, who's not school aged yet. So she's young, and I don't know. I think Kara is really enjoying that part of this kind of staying at home and getting a chance to be closer with her daughter. So Kara's doing okay there. And so that brings us to our next character, who is Tobias, who is kind of Cinnamon's, I would say, front of house point man. He takes care of the cash register and kind of talking to customers and helping customers in the pie shop. And so Tobias is oh he's always reminded me a little bit of Bob Ross, a little bit, the painter Bob Ross. So I kind of envision him taking this extra time that he has on his hands from all of this to kind of explore his artistic side a little bit. And I think he's taken up painting. I think he's taken up oil painting, and I think he's painting happy trees and mountains and the surrounding landscape of Christmas River and maybe little squirrels and things like that. I really see him kind of, taking this time to get in touch with his creative side, and it's kind of nice. I think he's doing okay, and that brings us to his wife, who is Tiana, who happens to be Cinnamon's baking assistant, and Tiana is I think she is probably taking this extra time to I had this thought that she's such a gentle character. Like I always think she's got kind of this like motherly gentleness to her. And I thought she, of course, like it makes sense that she would be really into gardening because, well, she's a cook, she's a baker, and so flavors for her and that kind of thing are really important and matter a lot. And I could kind of see her just like really getting into gardening and focusing on her gardening during this time. And I think she's like trying to figure out, because in Central Oregon it's difficult. The soil is kind of isn't great for gardening, so I think she's having to she wants to expand her garden, so she's looking into how to do that with that soil and how to adapt to it. And I think also she's probably trying to figure out how to keep the deer out, because the deer love to break into gardens there and just eat everything. So I think she's maybe building some fences around her garden to do that. And yeah, I think she's really taking a lot of pleasure in that, and kind of a slower pace, because things are always very fast paced at the pie shop, and she's got such a gentle soul. I just always thought she would, like an activity like that, like gardening, would fit in really nicely with her character. So I think that's probably what she's doing. And that takes us to our final character here, who is Edna. And I know you might be asking, who's Edna in the series? So you might know her as Edna Billings, and she happens to be Kara's very old, elderly mother-in-law. And Edna drives Kara completely up the wall. Like they just don't get along. They are just, they don't get along at all. And Edna is always kind of needling Kara about this or that. And so I see Edna is probably, she lives, she doesn't live with Kara and her husband John, but I see Edna probably as, I see Kara like maybe delivering bags to Edna from the grocery store and wanting to like, not keeping socially distant, but checking in on her. And I think Edna is still Edna, and even more so now, because I think all of her, I kind of envisioned her probably being really into quilting and taking having a quilting circle, and now she can't go to her quilting circle like she used to be able to. So I think she's even kind of more grumpier and grouchier than ever before. But I think Kara is kind of taking it with a grain of salt and recognizing that this is probably a tough time for her, just having to give up some of those things. So I think Kara is displaying a wonderful compassion and trying not to let Edna get under her skin, because I think deep down Kara really does like love Edna. They have kind of a love-hate relationship. So I think Kara is helping to take care of her from a distance, and so that's Edna Billings for you. And that brings us to the end of what our characters are doing in quarantine there. But I think overall the community of Christmas River is, banding together, and people are doing what they're supposed to be doing and caring for one another, and, realizing that their actions affect other people. So I see them all, for the most part, just, banding together, and until, that day when I don't know when things will be better. And I think Cinnamon is looking at this. I think she's planning and waiting for that day when she can't wait for a day when she can just have her family and friends around the table. And I think she's even planning the menu for that day when that can happen. So and it's coming. I think it's gonna someday it's gonna happen. So in the meantime, though, I think she's just doing her best to keep in touch with everyone, and and trying to make the best of this time, as I think everyone in Christmas River would be. So I hope you enjoyed that little window into Christmas River and kind of what everybody's doing during this time. And thank you so much for being here and indulging me for that part. And yeah, I'll see you next week. And I hope you guys are doing great. And yeah, have a great weekend. I'll see you then. Bye.